Imagine for a second a nation completely cut off from the rest of the world, a place shrouded in absolute secrecy, ruled by a brutal dynasty and armed to the teeth with nuclear weapons. For decades, the world has focused its attention on the men at the top of this regime. But what if I told you that the most terrifying, unpredictable force in this entire isolated state isn't the man sitting on the throne, but the woman standing quietly in his shadow? Today, in this explainer, we are diving deep into a story that honestly feels like a psychological thriller, but it is entirely terrifyingly real. We are unpacking the secretive, rapid, and incredibly stealthy rise of a hidden figure who operated completely in the dark before suddenly stepping out onto the global stage. It's a story of master deception, ruthless family dynamics, and a level of unchecked power that should have the entire world paying very, very close attention. To really understand where we are today and how this shadow puppeteer came to power, we actually have to rewind the clock all the way back to the mid-90s. And I want you to picture this scene because the contrast is just wild. Imagine two young kids. They go to a regular school in Bern, Switzerland, and like a lot of kids in Europe, they take a fun family trip to Disneyland Paris. They stand on the sidewalks of Main Street watching the daily parade roll by. They stare up at the glittering golden spires of Sleeping Beauty's castle. To literally anyone else in that theme park on that day, they look completely ordinary. Just another family, maybe the children of East Asian diplomats, enjoying a classic European vacation. They blended right in. But here's the catch. They weren't normal kids. And the passports they used to cross international borders and get into France? Completely 100% fake. So who were they? These two innocent-looking children soaking in the absolute magic and freedom of Disneyland were actually North Korean royalty. They were the heirs to a brutal totalitarian empire. The young boy, who would eventually grow up to inherit that entire regime and control its nuclear arsenal, is Kim Jong-un, and the quiet, unassuming young girl standing right beside him, taking in the sights, that is Kim Yo Jong. It's almost impossible to believe that this young girl smiling at the happiest place on earth would eventually grow up to become one of the most dangerous, ruthless, and powerful women in the entire world. Now, let's fast forward from that peaceful day in the mid-90s all the way to October 2024. We need to look at exactly what kind of raw power she wields right now, today. Out of nowhere, a drone crashes in the capital city of Pyongyang, North Korea. This wasn't just any drone. It was carrying anti-regime propaganda leaflets, directly challenging the state's authority. The outrage from the regime is instantaneous. They immediately issue a chilling official statement to the globe, warning that South Korea can expect, quote, the worst, unquote, if military tensions are escalated ever again. And let's be absolutely clear about what the worst means in this context. This isn't just tough talk. It is a direct, explicit threat of nuclear retaliation. Instantly, the border is armed to the teeth, put on full wartime strength. The entire region is on a razor's edge. Now, if you follow global news, you might be thinking, okay, nuclear threats from North Korea, that's nothing new. We have literally watched Kim Jong-un flaunt his missiles and make these kinds of threats for years, right? But here is the massive, unprecedented shocker about this specific incident. This aggressive, terrifying nuclear threat, it did not come from Kim Jong-un himself. No, it came directly from his younger sister, Kim Yo Jong. She is no longer just standing in the background. She is now the one actively driving this aggressive posturing on the world stage. She has deliberately stepped out from behind her brother's shadow to become the loudest, most terrifying voice of the entire regime. So how exactly did she pull this off? Her ascent to absolute power was incredibly stealthy, almost by design. Let's look at the timeline. Back in 2011, she makes her first real public appearance at her father Kim Jong-il's funeral. But at the time, nobody knew who she was. She was just a nameless, weeping woman dressed in black, caught in the background of the state broadcast. For years after that, she was literally treated like a servant. Her main public duties seemed to be carrying her chain-smoking brother's clipboard and holding a heavy crystal ashtray for him during events. But you have to watch how quickly she maneuvers behind the scenes. Just 3 years later, in 2014, she is appointed as the first deputy director of the Propaganda and Agitation Department. That's a massive leap. And by 2017, she's officially promoted to the Politburo. Think about that.
In a rigid, single-party system, she goes from quietly holding an ashtray to earning a permanent seat at the highest, most exclusive table of power in the nation.
One of her greatest weapons is her ability to completely manipulate how the world sees her. She relies on a massive, highly calculated contrast in her public persona. For example, in 2018, she stepped onto South Korean soil for the Winter Olympics, and she played the role of the diplomat perfectly. She was soft-spoken, she politely shook hands with the South Korean president, she wore a warm smile, and she completely charmed the international media. People thought, hey, maybe she's a moderating force. But that polite smile completely vanished just a couple of years later. Enter the post-2020 aggressor. This same woman literally ordered the physical destruction, the blowing up, of the Kaesong Liaison Office, a multi-million-dollar diplomatic facility sitting right at the border. And it gets even more bizarre and hostile. By 2024, she's the one allegedly ordering massive balloons filled with bags of literal garbage and feces to be launched over the DMZ into South Korea. Talk about giving the world whiplash. So how did she manage to pull off this massive shift in global perception? Well, it's because she is the absolute mastermind behind modernizing the regime's entire propaganda apparatus. She fundamentally rewrote their playbook. Step one of her grand strategy was softening Kim Jong-un's image. She knew they had to transform the global perception of him from a nuclear-obsessed madman into a statesman diplomatic enough to actually hold a historic face-to-face summit with the US president. Step two was bringing North Korean propaganda kicking and screaming into the digital age. She bypassed traditional state TV and started leveraging Western social media platforms like YouTube to push regime messaging directly to the global public. And step three, she officially and formally positioned herself as the chief foreign policy mouthpiece. She became the primary and often highly aggressive voice communicating with the outside world, controlling exactly what the globe hears from the regime. But we have to be incredibly careful here, because all of that polished, modernized propaganda exists for one reason: to hide a genuinely horrifying truth. While she sits at a desk orchestrating these viral YouTube videos that show smiling soldiers, kids playing violins, and cheerful factory workers, the reality on the ground for the citizens of this regime is brutally, unimaginably grim. This is a country that relies heavily on international kidnappings, vast and horrifying prison camps, and public executions for even the slightest hint of defiance. The regime she helps lead actively subjects its own citizens to manufactured famine and brutal forced labor. They consistently and deliberately make the choice to fund astronomically expensive ballistic missile tests over providing even basic food supplies for their starving people. That is the reality behind the smiling YouTube videos. And lately, her specific rhetoric has matched that internal brutality. It has become incredibly hostile. Just recently, in October 2024, she put out a public statement referring to both Ukraine and South Korea as, quote, vicious dogs tamed by the United States. As one insightful biographer so eloquently puts it, if Kim Jong-un is playing the role of the bad cop, trying to cultivate an image for his people of a benevolent, fatherly leader, then Kim Yo Jong has eagerly taken on the role of the even worse cop. She is the one handling the relentless insults. She delivers the raw, unfiltered aggression. And by doing the dirty work, she gives her brother the political cover he needs to remain the untouchable supreme leader. But we need to stop right here and make one thing perfectly, absolutely clear. Her role is not just theatrical public relations. She isn't just writing angry press releases or making empty verbal threats. According to multiple, highly credible intelligence sources, back in 2021, Kim Yo Jong personally ordered the execution of high-ranking government officials. And the reason? Simply because they annoyed her. Let that sink in. She literally had people killed for getting on her nerves. She wields direct, ruthless, and lethal authority within the state apparatus. Her power isn't a PR stunt. It is absolute, and it is terrifyingly real. Blood on her hands. Now, why does this level of ruthless, unchecked power in her hands matter so much? Why should you, me, and the rest of the world be paying such close attention to this? Well, it all comes down to one absolutely terrifying number: 50. 50. That is the estimated number of actual functional nuclear warheads currently sitting at this brutally ruled regime's fingertips.
The geopolitical stakes literally could not possibly be higher. Think about it. We have someone with her proven track record of immense volatility, someone who orders executions over petty annoyances, and she now has a direct, trusted line to a nuclear arsenal. It is a powder keg waiting for a spark.
Which brings us to a massively important, rapidly looming crisis. Kim Jong-un is only in his early 40s, which seems young for a world leader, but he is heavily rumored by global intelligence to have severe chronic health problems. And it makes sense when you look at his lifestyle: chain smoking, excessive drinking, and documented heart issues. So the multi-million-dollar question is, if something were to happen to him tomorrow, a sudden heart attack or stroke, who takes over? Recently, the regime has been aggressively parading his young daughter, Jue, in front of the cameras. They've been calling her the beloved daughter and bringing her to major intercontinental ballistic missile launches. But let's be real here. She's only 11 years old. She simply isn't ready and isn't capable of ruling a hostile, nuclear-armed nation. So, the absolutely crucial point we must understand is this: North Korea is a deeply structurally patriarchal society. It is a place where women face horrific, systematic abuse, widespread sexual violence, and forced exploitation. It is a system designed to keep women powerless. Yet, despite all of those staggering odds, Kim Yo Jong stands entirely alone at the top. If a sudden succession crisis were to happen today, she is practically the only viable heir. She has the entrenched military and political power, she has the years of ruthless experience, and she commands the absolute authority needed to take the reins of the Kim dynasty. She didn't just survive the patriarchal system, she mastered it. It really is a staggering journey. Kim Yo Jong has transformed from a nameless shadow quietly holding an ashtray into the most powerful, feared, and lethal confidant of a supreme leader. Today, she dictates foreign policy, she personally orders the executions of her rivals, and she masterminds the psychological warfare of an entire nation. As she stands right next to the nuclear button, operating freely as the regime's fiercest, most unhinged attack dog, we are left with one deeply unsettling question. How far is the woman with unchecked power in the world's most secretive, dangerous state truly willing to go? I want you to really think about that as you process everything we've covered today. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. If you found this deep dive as fascinating and terrifying as I did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment down below with your thoughts. I'll see you in the next one.